In my hands, listeners, is Birth of the Angel, and it's COVID murder mystery, book 1 of 2, and third one on the way. It's a mystery and murder and robbery. It's an unsolved case of the Gardner Museum in Boston, which, listeners, if you remember, some crafty thieves went in a very sophisticated way and took some millions of dollars of paintings out of there. Is that right?
And they've never been found. They're currently probably $500 million of worth at the moment. Yeah, they came in. This is March of 1990. This is a real-life event. The book, of course, is fiction.
You told us earlier that writing was in your heart. It's a soul thing. And opportunity presented itself. And
yeah, this is a story that I worked on for a very long time. I started it, I think, in, I don't know, maybe 03 or 04, something like that. And I wrote a version of it, and I thought, it's terrific. And I showed it to some people I really respected their opinion. They went, well, you could. And they were very kind about it. But it didn't sing. It was like, no, that didn't work. So I went after it a few more times after that and refined it. And I had it finished and ready to be published. And it was beginning of February of 2020. Story's supposed to take place right now in the present, and there was no COVID in the story. And the lead character of the story is named Artemis Bookbinder, and among other things, he's a germaphobe. And so I thought, well, this just doesn't work. We have this global pandemic and this investigator who's a germaphobe, and I've missed it. I've missed the moment. So I pulled it and started reworking, and it took me time to get it back out again, but I did. And that complication in the story was wonderful for me to work with because it was complex and, had to really make sure I was doing it right. It dealt with issues of courage and what it's like to have an amazing fear that you have to then step through in a world that's gone crazy. The caller Fred, he said, why do people need entertainment? And he suggested because we're all so happy. I think it's the opposite. I think when things get to be a little too busy, God knows the thing we've just gone through was very difficult, the COVID, and it was stressful. So to have something that you can immerse yourself in, enjoy, like a good murder mystery. My favorite review is by actress Beth Maitland, who's one of the longtime leads of Young and the Restless, and she wrote reviews and posted them, God bless her. And I use her quote a lot, which is absolute mystery fun. It's like a vacation. If it works well, yes, it's a murder mystery. Yep, someone gets killed. Oh, that's not so much fun. But the exploration and the journey to step in and see what happens and how it evolves, that's the fun bit. That's the good bit. And that's what these books are about. COVID Murder Mysteries was a title that I found out once you start to advertise a book. Social media will ban you immediately because you're using the word COVID and murder together, and that's not what this is. Yeah, and it's not about this. This is a murder mystery story that takes place during the time of COVID. It also is a story that's based on a real historical robbery, which is that Gardner Museum robbery. And the premise is, what if one of those paintings is found and then murder ensues? And that's where the book begins.
What was your background with Gardner Museum?
I was there many years ago, like people, and I walked in and I thought, this is the greatest place on the planet Earth. It just was so perfect. Isabella Stewart Gardner left her house that she had built with her full collection, which was astounding, to the city of Boston under the stipulation that nothing changed. The paintings as she arranged them, color of the walls, the furniture had to stay. God bless them, they agreed. There's other stories in the art world where that didn't happen, but here, Boston with honor, they did do it. When they needed to expand the collection, and they have a world-class collection, they built an extension building, which is beautiful and astounding. I go back many years there. It was a favorite place to stand on an interior window and look out at that courtyard, which is, it's amazing, the feeling of it and the gentleness of it. And then turn around and there's this masterpiece picture behind you. like the Rembrandt Storm on the Sea of Galilee, where the Christ figure is sitting in the boat with this very peaceful look on his face, and all the disciples are pulling at the rigging and they're panicked. And that is one of the stolen paintings. That's one of the ones that was taken in March 1990, never found, except, of course, in my book, where it's the one that's found.
Perfect. And I have been to the Gardner Museum, but it was so many years ago. But your description just brought me right back, the serenity of the garden and stuff. And for the record, I had nothing to do with the robbery or the murder in his book. I was young and footloose and fancy free, but I didn't take the paintings.
It was St. Patrick's Day night. It happened on March 18th at the wee hours of the morning, but people have been reveling all the time, so I don't know. It could have been you.
Yeah, maybe in a blackout, but it does sort of you ponder stealing, millions and millions of dollars worth of art that is well known, documented, can't be marketed readily.
Right. It's the opening scene of the book, which is where is it? And we start with a very wealthy art collector in Long Island, and he turns towards his mantelpiece, he hits a couple of buttons, and from behind a wall piece, the wall opens up and the painting slides forward. And he has to always keep it hidden. That's the exact question, is who would do it? What would they do with it? What would you have to go through? So you were the only person who gets to see it? It's a strange idea. And so that's where I started.
It is. It's quite remarkable. So you mentioned something that writers out there should take note of, that you had a draft of something that you thought was quite complete, and your friends, in a kind of a kind way, said, "Well, it's not quite there," but you stuck at it. What was your writing routine? What was your discipline to?
Well, when I first was working on it, I was holding down a full-time job in television, so it was difficult. I'd have to take breaks and kind of walk away for a while, but eventually, when we got here, I could really concentrate on it, which was part of the motivation. We needed a place quiet to work. And so here in Vermont, I really started to progress on it in a major way. I took lots of things from all the earlier drafts, of course. My mother was a big murder mystery fan, and pivotal to the story, as I mentioned, Artemis. It's also about his son, who at the beginning of the story is 11 or 12, is a genius kid. And it's about this father-son component and how they work together and how they both become as that evolves. So those fun. That was the bit she liked best, so I kept that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I imagine that there's a little bit of Vince O'Brien and Conal relationship here, right?
Yeah, well, you asked about rewrites, and I said I started on this book a long time ago. That's true. The early version of it was more like a book for young adults, and it wasn't exactly what I intended. I thought I was writing this contemporary adult book. And my dad, who never said anything unkind to me, notably about work, said, well, I like the description of the Ansonia. The characters live in the Ansonia Hotel in New York. And that's all he said. And I went, oh, dear, that's really bad. That really didn't work.
Did he found something?
Yeah. I liked that one bit. And as I said, my mother, she liked the father-son complication and how they work together. So I took both of those bits and kind of celebrated the New York City locales. It takes place all over the world, the story, but notably that, and the father-son relationship, because what they said mattered a lot.
Yes, for sure. It's a great book, Birth of the Angels, and with the local bookstores around here in Waterbury is Bridgeside Books, right on Stowe Street, and your book is in other places around.
It's there, yeah, and thank you. A shout out to Katya and Jenna and Maddie at Bridgeside Books. They hosted a book signing for me in November when the second book came out, which was amazing. They are great people. The store is fantastic, and we love the independent bookstores. We're there. We're at Bear Pond in Montpelier. We're at Bear Pond in Stowe, so thank you to those stores as well. And of course, it's available everywhere, the ebooks and whatnot. look about, and you'll find it.
Yeah, no, I did download it from Amazon on the weekend to my phone, and so it's easy to get. It's Birth of the Angel. You can Google Conal O'Brien. You'll learn a lot about his career in directing soap operas. His dad, Vince O'Brien, was an actor and was in a Woody Allen film, Annie Hall. And in your books, in your writing, what is the educational heart piece for you? Sometimes in books there's a life lesson. Is there a life lesson in the books?
Absolutely. These books are about the joy of surviving. It's intended to be, as I said, a fun ride. It's intended to be a mystery story that you enjoy, like any good mystery story. But it's, I think, a celebration of why live. My book has no gore. It has no horror. It is about the people. It's about the people on this journey to find, first of all, the stolen art from the Gardner Museum, but also to find themselves and each other.
The painting you describe, it breaks my heart that it's missing, right?
Me too. It's astounding. Yeah.
Because it is such a magical piece of art. And so if you've got that painting, listening audience, why don't you just bring it back, drop it off at the Gardner Museum, no harm, no foul.
And apparently the Gardner will give you a very large reward for doing so, no questions asked. I think it's in the millions by now, maybe 5 or 10 million.
And let the world enjoy the art, not in a living room somewhere. Brilliant book by Conal O'Brien, Birth of the Angel. It's one of 2 that are out, a third one on the way. And we'll want to have you back when the new book comes out, and we talk a little bit more about that.
I love that. Thank you, Brad. And Brad, you make this so easy. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It's Birth of the Angel. Conal O'Brien is the author. You can get it at your local bookstores. We want to support them. You can also get them, you can order online. You can download. It's real easy. Birth of the Angel, Conal O'Brien. And thanks for being with us.
Thanks again, Brad.